First of all, I just want to thank you so much, Leah and Lisa, and all of my friends at Guiding Star. We have been on this journey together for a long time. And Leah and I are soul sisters, and that we share this belief that women truly deserve to be littered in the way their beautiful bodies are designed to function. And at FACS, our mission is to educate the medical professional community, the doctors, the nurses, the midwives, the PAs, the pharmacists, the physical therapists, anyone who provides healthcare to women, so that they can truly understand how our beautiful reproductive systems are designed to function. I just gave a talk last week at my daughter's high school, and I said to her classmates, the most amazing thing about the reproductive system is it's the only system in the human body that, to function to its fullest capacity, requires cooperation with another human being. It's so incredibly intricately designed, and to function fully requires full cooperation with another human being. Unfortunately, for decades, this information has not been shared with women and with men, because newsflash, women don't make babies on our own. We need our men. We need our men at the time we make our babies, and we need our men when we're here and they're home with our children, including my husband, who's home with 3 of our 4 children, one of whom is sick today. So I just want to take a moment to really honor the men. But at FACS, our focus is to educate the medical community, because unfortunately, we have been the #1 rate limiting step to the wider spread adoption of natural methods of family planning or fertility awareness-based methods. And every woman, every man deserves to understand the way their beautiful body is designed. And they deserve doctors and other medical professionals. And let me tell you, I was so proud of all of you saying the word professionals tonight. I know, I was so proud. Every person deserves a medical professional that truly understands and supports individuals to embrace their birthright. Body literacy is critical.
It is incredible to be here, and I am so deeply grateful to see what Leah has done and so many others who've come alongside her over the last 12, 13, 15 years. I knew her, met her in a hotel lobby in Los Angeles, probably right around the time she started. And she had this dream and this vision and this conversational aspect of life that was contagious. But it was people telling me about their body. It was about women like you teaching me about your body. The same women who 10 years earlier taught me that they needed abortion as health care. Because I'm a guy, but I'm a pretty good OBGYN. Why? Because I listened to people like Leah, to people like you. And today, there's been this revolution within the pro-life movement of what life-affirming healthcare is. And just like, being old now at 64, I've seen a lot of these young whippersnappers grow up. Whether it's, whether it's all the folks here, Marguerite and Leah, but Lila and Kristen and Abby. And so when we started, and I had my change of heart, it was about trying to create a medical practice that was holistic, integrated, comprehensive. And it wasn't just body literacy, because now I know, after working with many pregnancy centers and with women of all stages and positions and political affiliations, body literacy is quite powerful. It's a tool that opens up their body, and so you begin to teach body literacy, and then it leads into pregnancies and families, and you try your best to deliver. So yes, I've delivered, almost 6,000 to 7,000 babies, I'm sure. I've done home births. I've done high-risk obstetrics. Done many, many cesareans. Counseled many, many women into our perinatal hospice project. And it's all integrated. And then you accompany them, these women, through their life into their later stages. And I just want you to know that this connection is what Guiding Star is absolutely about, and it's why I am too grateful and so grateful for this honor and this gift. Because I can tell you just one simple story is that I began to notice that a lot of my post-abortal women, when they got into labor, moaned differently. And we are really about, in medicine, providing a space, a safe space, for many others to come and speak and to open themselves and to trust us. That's the key. Knock down the silos, really learn to trust the Marguerites and myself and the other doctors in the audience and the other midwives, the real professionals. And it's when you realize that everything's integrated and that you can actually see their pain and suffering, their shame, their anger, their control issues, their fear. It's the body literacy that liberates them. It's the care of listening and accompanying women through their deliveries and postpartum care, utilizing natural progesterone in the postpartum period for postpartum blues, postpartum depression. Absolutely outstanding. And I just want to thank you so much for providing this gift today. Thank you so much.
My breastfeeding journey started with a very rough start. I was 23 years old when I had my son. I was a newlywed, and I had him at 36 weeks. And at the hospital where I delivered, that was considered full term. So, and if a lot of people in here are birth and lactation professionals, so 36 weekers are those little early birds, and they're not full term. They need that full 40 weeks. So imagine my surprise when my slightly jaundiced baby who weighed 6 pounds was reluctant to latch. It got off to a very rough start. I woke up from an emergency C-section. I was seeing double, and they handed me this baby. I was like, well, this is cute. Where's his mom? It's me. A couple of months go by, and breastfeeding has been tricky. I had to figure out how to manage an accidental oversupply. A lot of people think that that's a blessing. It's not. If you have an unmanaged oversupply, it can cause a lot of problems. So when I was having some breastfeeding struggles, I reached out to the only lactation consultant that I personally knew, my friend Leah. This was almost 11 years ago. Guiding Star was also just a baby at the time. So I reached out to her and I said, I need help. I don't know what I'm gonna do here. Like, this hurts. What do I do? And Leah was extremely helpful. It made a huge difference in my lactation journey at that time. I was also able to start donating milk with the help that she gave me. I was able to become a milk donor as well. I had another preemie, my 33-weeker. She weighed 4 pounds, and that was my first exclusive pumping journey. And if anybody's ever pumped at all or exclusively pumped, you know that that is very difficult to do. And it was my first experience with NICU babies. My first experience with a NICU baby was my own. She was in the NICU for 2.5 weeks. She came home weighing 4.5 pounds, and she grew very big and chunky very quickly. And she was also a donor baby as well. She learned how to share her milk very early. My third one, I had another emergency C-section. Those are 3 C-sections, all different kinds. And I had a 25-weeker. It's not a good pattern, they get earlier and earlier. I had a 25-weeker. We did not make it into our 3rd trimester, but she came out fighting, and I call her she's spicy. She is a fighter, and she was born weighing 1 pound, 14 ounces. And she was a donor milk recipient before she became a donor milk baby herself. So she was able to receive donor milk before becoming a donor baby herself. She was in the NICU for 3.5 months. My heart, I want to help any mother achieve her breastfeeding goals. I decided I wanted to be like Leah when I grew up. Still waiting for that to happen, but I wanted to be able to help other mothers just like she had helped me when I was having trouble. So not only achieve their breastfeeding goals, but my heart is also with the moms of NICU babies. And so I know that Guiding Star has recently set up a donor milk program, which I wholeheartedly endorse, because I have seen firsthand how donor milk, when baby does not have access to own mother's milk for whatever reason, the impact it can make on that baby's health and well-being. So it is truly an honor. Leah, thank you for this award. I really appreciate it.
I went to the Women's March. So the day before was the March for Life, and the next day was the Women's March. And I care about equality for women. And when I went out there, it was a sea of hot pink, which is my favorite color. But it was not a sea of pro-life voices. And I remember that day saying, this has to change, because equality in America for women doesn't need or mean we have to destroy our children to get there. I went home, I traded my brown trifocals for these hot pink ones, and they represent a life-affirming vision for women and women's health. My son, who's 33, branded me Dr. Pink glasses, and it has stuck. So I was on a panel at UNC Chapel Hill in North Carolina this fall, and it was with a couple bioethicists and myself and a theologian. And a nursing student in the audience said, could you, in the Q&A, she said, how do I respond? I was in class last week, and a nursing professor told me, don't go to pregnancy centers. Don't send people there, and don't ever work there. They have an agenda. So I talked to her about what the pregnancy center movement is all about. And then I said, and darn right we have an agenda. The first piece of our agenda is we want to empower women with information. The second is we want to provide exceptional health care. The third is we want to strengthen families in our community. And the fourth, we want to love them unconditionally the way Jesus loves us. So you all have an agenda. And as a medical director of 4 centers, I actually moved from a volunteer role to now seeing women. And I have found a home there. My goal in North Carolina is to broaden the care we have. There are 2,700 pregnancy centers in our country. We have the infrastructure. We're doing great work, but we can expand that, and that aligns with the wonderful work you're doing. And so I just thank you for what you're doing, but I also say, don't be afraid of your agenda. Defend your agenda wholeheartedly. It's a great agenda. And as I finished telling my 4 points at UNC Chapel Hill, the theologian on the panel grabs the mic from me, and he looks at the nursing student, and he says, there is no such thing as not agenda. That professor had an agenda when he or she made those comments about pregnancy centers. So unapologetically know your agenda and keep doing it. And that's all you need to do. Thank y'all.
It was never my intent to start an organization. But once I learned that the women in my town were still having the same problems that I had years earlier with doctors who didn't know anything about breastfeeding, I had to do something about it. To help you to understand where I was coming from, Tom and I had 3 daughters. The first 3 years we were married, and used 3 different pediatricians, and none of them knew anything about breastfeeding. I quickly realized that if I had any problem, why is the baby crying? Do I have enough milk? Is my milk good enough? The doctor would always suggest giving the baby a bottle just in case. It would solve the problem. And but they also knew that by the time the baby was 6 months old, I always had to wean them for different reasons all the time. So with I was always looking for a different doctor to go to. And because making those bottles was a very complicated job in those days. You had to make the formula from scratch, You had to boil the bottle, boil the nipple, use tongs to put everything on because your hands might have some bacteria on that would harm the baby. So it wasn't a simple thing of picking up a bottle. It was a lot of work. And I wanted somebody who really knew something about breastfeeding. Then one day, I just happened to read about a doctor who was not only lived in my town, but went to my church. And he delivered babies at home for mothers who wanted it. And that's what I always wanted since I had my first baby, because the hospitals didn't know what to do with women who weren't drugged. Somebody who could talk and could listen to what they were saying to the women in labor wasn't appreciated at that time. So we quickly switched to Dr. White. And after I had the baby, I found out that since he was the father of 6 or 7 breastfed babies at that time, he knew everything about breastfeeding. I didn't have any problems that couldn't be solved by him. And so many of the things I needed to know were so simple. Like, my milk was better for my baby than anything anybody else could give them. And a baby should be fed when they're hungry, not when the doctor's schedule, which was usually every 4 hours. And that when that baby cried, maybe it just needed to be picked up. It's been used to being in your body, but back in those days, you were really taught not to pick up your baby between feedings because you might spoil them. It was just such a blessing to have somebody who understood what this was about. It was just normal that women would talk about breastfeeding, and we found out then that they weren't getting the help they need, and it bothered me because I'd been through that situation. So I thought about it in bed that night, and the next morning I decided I had to do something about it. And so I called Mary White, and I called Edwina Freilich. They were the only 2 women in town that I knew who had breastfed. So immediately I said what I wanted to do. Do you want to help me figure out what to do, what women need to know, and how we can do this for them? They loved the idea. And they knew some other women who were who had nursed, and they called them. And so in a few days, we had 7 women ready to start this thing to help mothers breastfeed. Later, we were called the 7 founders. And what none of us knew at the time was it was going to be a lifelong job. None of us could ever give it up because we knew how important it was.
We are going to sign off with one final just congratulations to you and thank you, Marian Tompson, for the lifetime of work that you've done. Hold her award.
Marian, this is Lisa. I'm having Leah stand in front of your image. Can you just look straight in the camera and smile? And she's holding your beautiful award. And we're going to take a picture as if you're here. So just look right in the camera and smile. Perfect. Yes.